Okay, I'm calling to order the Planning Commission meeting of Carson City. Can I please have a call to order? Or roll call?
Chair Wiggins,
Present.
Vice Chair Preston. Present. Commissioner Borders. Here. Commissioner Eswine. Here. Commissioner Kilgore.
Here.
Commissioner Lloyd. Here. Commissioner Perry.
Here.
A quorum's present.
Thank you. Commissioner Borders, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public comment. The public is invited at this time to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of the public body. The public will also have opportunity during each of the agenda items to comment on those. Is there any general Planning Commission public comment at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to possible action, approval of the minutes of July 27th, 2022.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I'll move that we accept the minutes of, July 27, 2022.
can I get a second? Second from Commissioner Eswine. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? Motion passes.
I abstain. I wasn't here.
And an abstention from Commissioner Perry. Good call. Okay, moving on to the meeting items. Item 6A, LU-2022-0325 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding a request from Rogers Media Company for a special use permit to retain an existing billboard on property zone general commercial located at 800 Old Clear Creek Road. Heather? Okay, go for it.
So let's see if I can get this back here. All right. Bear with us. We're having a little bit of issues too, so hopefully it sticks with us for the rest of the meeting. Heather Ferris, Planning Manager for the record. The subject parcel is approximately 3.3 acres in size, located on the south side of Highway 50 West, and is zoned general commercial. The primary business located on the site is personal storage. The subject billboard is located in the northwest corner of the property, several hundred feet east of 3 other billboards, all of which are located in Douglas County. The billboard has been at this location for approximately 15 years. Per Carson City Development Standards, Division 4.8.3, a special use permit issued for a billboard automatically expires 5 years from the date of issuance, and a new SUP is required in order to retain the billboard at the current location. In this case, the SUP was last reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission in August of 2017. Staff has reviewed the billboard for compliance with all applicable sections of the Division 4.8.3 of the Development Standards and has found the billboard to be in compliance. There are 7 findings of fact that the Planning Commission must make in the affirmative in order to approve a special use permit. Staff has made all findings and is recommending approval, subject to 8 conditions of approval, which are included in the staff report. We've not received any public comments regarding this item, and I believe Matt Rogers, the applicant, is here, and he may wish to address the commission, and I'm available for questions.
I'm sorry, Heather, you need to redo your screen. Sorry.
Okay. Thank you, Heather. Does anyone have questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, could the applicant please come forward? Please state your name for the record.
Matt Rogers, I'm president of Rogers Media Company.
Okay. And have you read the conditions for approval?
I have.
And are you in agreement?
I am.
Okay. Do you have any statement or anything else to add?
I'm free to answer any questions the commission may have.
Okay. Do any commissioners have a question?
Yes,
Oh.
I do. If I can. And it's
Go
just-
ahead,
it's
Commissioner
just a simple
Perry.
one. How often do you change the advertising on that?
It's approximately about once every 60 days.
Every 60 days?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That was just a curiosity I
Yep.
had. Thank you.
Yep.
Commissioner Preston?
I noticed in the 2016 application that you actually provide an endowment for the Carson City Chamber of Commerce. Is this going to be something that's going to continue?
Yeah, we actually made a large contribution 5 years ago, and it continues.
Any other commissioner questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any public comment at this time? Seeing none, any discussion from the commissioners on this? Commissioner Borders always seems to talk about billboards.
You really want me to talk about billboards? No, I think Heather answered the question. My question would have been if this was a new billboard, does it meet all the requirements as currently stated in the code? And you said it did.
It meets all of the applicable requirements. There's a detailed analysis of that in the findings, if you want me to go through that.
No.
There are a handful of items. I believe it's the distance requirements from other billboards that don't currently meet the standard.
But those other billboards are in another county, aren't they?
They are.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion from commissioners? If not, perhaps a motion.
Question.
Sure.
Commissioner Lloyd, for the record. Heather, I'm looking at the property tax information and it appears that it is unpaid.
Is that in the packet?
It is not, I'm looking online.
Okay. I don't have access to that.
Okay,
In
it
front of me.
appears that it's a sum of about $14,000.
Okay.
So I think that that's an important consideration when we're looking at approving a billboard on the property.
Commissioner Lloyd, if I may, are you looking at the property taxes for the property that the billboard sits on, or is it a leased area that the billboard has? And I'm not saying the billboard has a leased area. Heather, does the billboard own the land, or do they have a lease on the land?
I believe it's a lease.
Okay.
The project assessor's parcel number on the application for the special use permit.
Could the applicant please come back and answer this?
Yes, so we do not own the property, ma'am. We lease the property from Mr. Kugler. We pay business and possessions tax that is current. We pay a billboard license fee every year, which is current, and I think that is in your packet.
Okay.
Thank you, and I appreciate that you being a responsible business owner, but I also think that we should take into consideration that the property owner has not paid their taxes.
Okay.
Do you pay a fee to Mr. Kugler?
I do, sir.
Okay, that's all.
Yep.
Any other discussion from the commissioners? Or Hope, have you ever seen something like this?
When we look at maps, we do have a requirement that the taxes be paid. For the year, taxes were due on August 15th, I believe it is, so it could be that section. That said, we do have, and I'll defer to Heather, I'm just gonna put this out there, though. We do have finding number 5, which says the project meets the definition specific standards set elsewhere in this title, which title is Title 18. Arguably, they should pay their taxes. I don't know if there's a downside to postponing this and having the landlord pay the taxes and bringing it back. I'm just putting that out there. Heather, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, we can certainly consider that. Yeah,
Chair-
it's a bit of a conundrum when we have somebody leasing ground and they've paid everything they're required to pay, but the property owner hasn't.
Chair, if I may.
Sure.
Based on looking at the more detailed report, it looks like on the 15th, there was $6,235.51 due. So just, it is a total of $14,000, but it is not at that amount at this time.
Commissioner Kilgore, your hands up.
Oh yeah, I've always got something to say about these billboards, but that picture says it all. I mean, that is an advertisement for a hospital. So I hope somebody sees that when they really need it and that it really gets them where they need to go and that the revenue is boosted because of that billboard for that hospital. It absolutely makes no sense to see that on the skyline whatsoever. And in which case, that's another reason why I can't make sense of, I mean, if you look at the logistics of it and you look at the research done on, the revenue that comes from things that are posted on billboards, and the only positive revenue ever comes from fast food restaurants. So I won't mention any by name, but you can guess when you see the arches and it's 2 miles up on the left that does bring positive revenue. But I can imagine that the hospital in this photograph of that skyline eyesore probably doesn't turn a positive revenue. And I understand that that's not really the point, but yeah, it's discussion. Just want to make it known.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes.
when does this special use permit expire?
I believe it expires today.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion from the commissioners? I think we have a couple options. We could not pass this because of the taxes, and that would potentially incentivize the property owner to pay his taxes, but then we're doing harm to a business owner that's done everything he could from his standpoint. I don't know. I'm in a conundrum a little bit.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can we do it the other way?
Sure.
Can we approve it conditionally that, on the fact that the property taxes are paid?
Paid within 30 days or
Yeah.
maybe something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Instead of, that way, the permit is technically approved,
You were thinking.
which doesn't affect the
Okay.
the applicant, but it gives a timeline on getting the taxes paid.
And I'd like to also add, the fact is that with, people are still working from home, things are backwards. Right now, our taxes are being done and processed at the courthouse, which they said now has been, has some flooding issues. My question is it a clerical issue or what? So I'm agreeing on this, that we should go ahead and make it subject to the owner actually showing that he paid his taxes, but not penalize this gentleman yet.
Maybe
Chair,
like 90 days or something?
I would suggest that 15 days, maybe 45 days. It's 2 weeks late at this point, and the next taxes are due on October 3rd.
It's 2 weeks from being posted. That's what my concern is because right now I've been working with so many different groups that the posting and the data entry and so forth are running 60 to 90 days late, and it doesn't matter if you're dealing with state, county, or city. And so that to me is a concern.
Okay, I want to get a feel from the commissioners. Would maybe each person say if they're in agreement to a 45-day or 90-day or something like that, and then maybe we can put a motion forward?
I'm okay with 45 days. That's the middle of October.
Okay, I'm okay with 45.
Yep.
45, okay. I think we're close to a motion then. Commissioner Borders, I think.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve LU 2022-0325 based on the findings and subject to the conditions of approval contained in the staff report. In addition, this approval is conditional upon the property owner paying his taxes or showing proof of payment of taxes within the next 45 days.
Okay, I'll second that.
Commissioner Lloyd, is that?
I was just going to ask a question of staff in discussion of that motion. What happens if the property owner does not pay?
We can begin revocation proceedings.
Do you want a second? Why don't you second?
I'll go ahead and second Chuck's motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. Okay, moving on to item 6B. Sure. LU-2022-03 2-3 for possible action, discussion and possible action regarding a request from Jay DeMarco for a special use permit to allow for the establishment of a child care facility accessory to a residential use on property zone single family 6,000 located at 1863 Van Epps Drive. Heather.
Thank you. Heather Fairskin for the record. The subject parcel is approximately 7,400 square feet in size and is zoned single-family 6,000. The applicant is proposing an in-home childcare facility to serve up to a maximum of 12 children, ranging in age between 6 weeks and 6 years old. Per 1804-075 of the municipal code, a childcare facility that is accessory to a residential use may only be established upon approval of a special use permit and subject to compliance with the development standards outlined in Division 1.6 of Carson City Municipal Code. The residential character of the neighborhood will not be modified. There's no proposed additions or modifications to the residents in order to accommodate this facility. Drop-off and pickup times are proposed to be staggered to reduce potential parking conflicts. And the applicant has noted that they would have only one employee, which is permitted in association with an in-home childcare use. The applicant will also be required to obtain and maintain their state license, which will ensure compliance with interior and exterior spaces for the children. There are 7 findings of fact that the Planning Commission must make in the affirmative in order to approve a special use permit. Staff has made all findings and is recommending approval subject to the 7 conditions of approval, which are included in your staff report. We have received one written comment, which is provided to you as late material. I believe Yvonne Friedman is here representing the project and may wish to address the commission, and I'm available for questions.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Borders?
Heather, on condition number 5, how does the applicant demonstrate that the project is in compliance?
That would be associated with the issuance of their business license. So prior to obtaining their business license, they would have to have inspections from the fire department.
Okay, so they would have a form in hand that they would get.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's a trigger for that, yes.
okay.
Any other questions for staff? Oh, Commissioner Lloyd?
Hi, Heather. Just, looking at this late material that was public comment, just a couple clarifying questions. Their suggestion here is this would potentially trigger other types of in-home businesses to open, like car repair shops out of their garage or marijuana dispensaries out of garages. Can you just clarify that if that is something that could happen?
Yeah, so in the SF6 zoning district, this is specifically listed as a conditional use. Any commercial use, such as those that were listed in that comment, are not allowed uses. So if anything like that did occur, that would be a violation of the code, and we would have to start code enforcement proceedings on that.
Thank you, Heather.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay, could the applicant please come up? Hello. Please push the button and state your name for the record.
Yvonne Friedman?
Okay. Have you read the conditions of approval
Yes.
and you're in agreement?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any statement or anything you want to add to it?
No, I do not, unless there are any questions that I can answer.
Okay. I'm not sure if you saw the late material, but there's concern for having a business in a residential neighborhood.
Of course.
What things are you going to do to mitigate that?
So the child care facility, like it was stated in the packet, I know a big concern would be cars coming in and out of the neighborhood, maybe blocking a driveway, anything of that nature. We will have staggered times for the parents, so there will be increments where they can and cannot drop off. That's something that we would have to strictly enforce with everyone. The parking for the parents will be within the driveway. There are actually 3 spaces in the driveway that can fit cars, and so the parking for them would actually be in there. As far as the staff, there is a garage that parking can be available for, leaving the 3 spaces open. Apart from that, our hours of operation would be, standard hours of operation. We're not going to be open in the middle of the night. We're not going to have kids playing at 10 o'clock at night. We would always have staff outside, ensuring that the noise levels are not, getting out of control for any children. The 12 will also include infants, so it's not like we'll have 12 5-year-olds playing in the backyard at any given time. And as far as any other concerns, I know that for the immediate neighborhood, the neighbors are known. There is an open communication so that any problems that do arise, they are comfortable communicating those issues.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Borders, or is that Perry? I can't
it's
tell on
me.
my seating chart.
It's me.
Commissioner Borders.
Do you have your state license yet?
We have the state business license, yes.
No, the childcare.
Oh, no, they're waiting for this approval. We can't have an approval for 12 children without the special use permit.
Okay, you have to have the permit first. That's what I was trying to get to. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Oh, Commissioner Perry?
Yes. Yvonne, thanks for coming. Are you going to be the operator of this?
Yes, myself and one other person.
And do you own this home?
I do not, and that is the person who is going to be the other operator with me.
Okay. So you don't live there?
No,
Okay.
I do not live there.
Have you ever run a child care facility before?
I actually grew up in a child care facility. My mother owned one in her home in her residential neighborhood, so I was a huge part of that all the way up through my college years.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, any discussion from the commissioners or perhaps a motion?
I would just make a comment and then I'll make a motion that many of the child care facilities that we have approved over the last few years are in residential areas like this. This is not an uncommon thing, although some have been in commercial also. And as far as I know, we've never had any problems with those. The one lady that did send in, Dana Whaley, is she here tonight, by chance? No? Okay. And I think Senna's comment there really answered that car repair shops and marijuana dispensaries are not a conditional use in a residential area, so that can't happen. That can't be permitted, which I think is an important response to her. And I'd really like to see maybe a communication, a phone call or something to her to let her know, what the outcome was, and also that those things that she was concerned about are not permittable in a residential area.
Yeah, so it's my understanding that that conversation has already occurred, but I can follow up with staff
Okay.
to ensure that.
Thank you. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve the special use permit in case number LU 2022-323 based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval contained in the staff report.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Kilgore. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. Okay. Hey, before you leave this slide, what is CFW? I guess CCP is covered patio. What was CFW in that?
I would have to check with the assessors.
Oh,
I believe this is a sketch off of the assessor's
Okay.
website, and I'm not sure.
Stephen? Okay. So it wasn't just me. That was just confirming that. Okay. All right, moving on to item 6C. LU-2022-034 for possible action. Discussion and possible action regarding a request from Systems Edge LLC for a special use permit to allow for a virtual reality arcade on a parcel zone downtown mixed use located at 1087 South Carson Street. Heather.
Thank you, Heather Ferris, again for the record. The subject parcel is located on the east side of South Carson Street, just north of the Carson Mall property. The property is zoned downtown mixed use and is developed with 2 office retail buildings. The applicant is proposing a virtual reality arcade with 8 stations and a gathering area for waiting customers. Additionally, the applicant proposes to sell prepackaged drinks and snacks. Per 1804125 of the municipal code, an amusement arcade is a conditional use in the downtown mixed-use district. There are 7 findings of fact that the Planning Commission must make in the affirmative in order to approve a special use permit. Staff has made all findings and is recommending approval, subject to the 5 conditions of approval, which are included in your staff report. We've not received any public comments regarding this item. The applicant, Jacob Baton, is here and may wish to address the commission, and I'm available for questions.
Okay. Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Lloyd?
Thank you, Commissioner Lloyd, for the record. Hi, Heather. So is there any requirement for them to have a health certificate or anything like that while operating?
So my understanding from the health department is any kind of food service could trigger that. That, again, is reviewed at the business license stage. So I believe he's already applied for his business license, and then through that, there will be inspections through the health department.
I think just the bagged stuff and drinks does not require that, though, right?
If there's anything, it's minimal. I don't want to speak for them.
Okay. Commissioner Borders?
Heather, this is located in a business office building.
Yeah, there's a mix of uses
Yeah,
there.
and
Mhm.
Reds is right there at the end of it. When you originally applied to build those business offices, the parking requirements were something like 2.5 or 3 per. It would seem like, my only concern is the parking.
Right, so
If the applicant says there may be 20 or 30 people there, that's a lot of more cars than I think that place normally can handle during the daytime. And I wonder what
So this is downtown mixed use, and there's specific parking standards for downtown mixed use, which can be found in Division 6. And essentially what that says is that any change of use in the downtown mixed use zoning district does not trigger an evaluation of the parking.
Oh. Even though it may be crowded.
That's correct.
Okay.
Is that because they just expect the downtown to be crowded? Business, yeah. Okay. Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, could the applicant please come forward? Please state your name for the record.
Jacob Bainton,
Okay. Are you
And-
go? Okay.
applicant, and Sam Douglas, commercial real estate broker.
Okay. Have you read the conditions of approval?
Yes.
And you're all in agreement?
Yes, just one clarification. It's a 12-month approval with one 12-month renewal. Does that mean after the second year that a new special use permit needs to be applied for?
No, so the use has to be initiated within 12 months. As
Okay.
long as it started within the 12-month period, there's no need for an extension.
Very good. Thank you.
And the extension is granted by the director, right? You don't have to come back here.
So the first extension is administrative, and then the second one would come back to the planning commission.
Okay.
So Jake, just to be clear, once it's granted indefinitely until the use decides to go away or move somewhere else.
Mhm. Okay. Do you have any statement or comments to add to this?
No, I think other than that, I'm good.
Okay.
Have you all thought about parking?
Yes, parking has been something that we've thought about, and the 20 to 30 estimate is across a whole day, and so most people that would be there would probably be there for an average of an hour or less, meaning that the cars are cycling through, never really, hopefully, filling up the parking lot. And we have looked at the parking lot and the times that we would be open as well, because we open after school and only really expect to be busy later on in the day when a lot of businesses have already closed. So a lot of businesses next to us, like Edward Jones, any peak hours that we might have would be after they're already closed and cars are moved out of their way. So we shouldn't be any concern for businesses next to us because
Okay,
of those operating hours.
So what are your operating hours then?
Normal operating hours right now would be 3 to 11.
Okay, okay. So you're primarily going to be open when most of those other businesses are closed.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. That helps a lot.
Commissioner Lloyd?
Thank you. Commissioner Lloyd, for the record, I have a comment and then a question. I would just like to note that the property owner is up to date on their taxes. And my question for you is similar to what I asked Heather before. So what health precautions will you be taking with individuals touching goggles, putting them on their face, in between uses? Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. That's something we put a lot of thought into. So individuals who are using the headsets, they will receive like help putting them on if they need it. They can put them on themselves. In between each use, there is a face mask that is magnetic. It's removable from the headset. Those will be taken into a back room, cleaned, dried, and they'll be immediately swapped out with a clean and dry one as soon as one person has finished a use. And additionally, the goggles will be wiped down in between uses, and the headsets themselves will be wiped down to keep everything sanitary and clean.
Thank you.
Commissioner Perry?
Get that green. Thanks for coming in, Jacob. I'm an old white guy born in the 50s. What happens at a virtual reality arcade? But I've never been to one, I guess, and I'm trying to, are these little rooms and you put goggles on and there's screens or what?
So essentially, virtual reality arcade, it's the closest term we could find to define it. And what you're doing is you're going into a little cubicle, you could imagine, and you have a headset and you have some controllers and you put on the headset, and the headset is connected to a computer, and then you're in virtual reality and you have usually enough space to walk around. Additionally, we're opening with an omnidirectional treadmill, which means you can hop up on top of it and walk in place in any direction or run in place. And then you can play for your time. There's a variety of games from painting to things like games where there's like music incorporated into it, and you pay for time and use it, and then you're good to go.
So there's different programs that people can go in there and they pay you by the minute, hour, or something like that.
Time rental, yes.
Time, okay. And then they can, after they're through, they have some place where they can go and hang out with other people and
Exactly.
I even saw studying in here.
Yeah.
First, and I thought, oh, that looks good.
Yes, there's a possibility. The second floor of the loft has ample seating for people, whether they're waiting their turn, whether they're cooling off afterwards, or if they just wanted to hang out together or study, something like that.
I'll have to come down maybe and see. It would be
I'd
an
love that.
eye-opener to me.
They might need a Pac-Man virtual reality.
Star Trek, right?
I remember Pong.
Be the holodeck, I guess, on Star Trek.
Ah, okay.
It's a good comparison.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, how about public comment? Thank you. Any members of the public?
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. And I think this arcade sounds great. am apologizing for coming in late. I actually intended it to be early, but that didn't happen. Um, My only question was, because I've only had a few bits to look at the extended information pack, and the one thing that I hadn't found was anything about handicapped accessibility. And I was just wondering if the restrooms were set for such, and the facility themselves as far as game areas and the cubbies. Because like I said, I've only had a few minutes to look at that, and so I apologize. I had a chance to look at extended information, and I didn't when I had the computer. So that would be my question, and otherwise, I think it's an amazing deal, and I really enjoyed what I was exposed to the public library when they had a program with the virtual reality. I got quite a workout, and I just really enjoyed it. A lot of aggression off and a lot of excitement and pleasure at the same time. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none. Heather, can you take the handicap requirements for the,
So I don't know if I can answer it specifically, but we did have the building official review the application. Essentially, any change of use is going to require a change of occupancy permit from the building department, at which time those types of things will be evaluated.
okay? All right, looks like, is there any final discussion from the commissioners? I see a commissioner wants to do a motion. Go for it.
I'm very excited to move to approve item LU 2022-0324 based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval included in the staff report.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Eswine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. Sure.
Commissioner Eswine, did you second? Commissioner Eswine?
Yeah, Commissioner Eswine seconded. We'll take a second to let folks clear out.
Jay goes, no, they're young, they should watch government at work. Matt, where's your team? I thought you were bringing the crowd. The virtual guy did. Yeah, I thought they were here for you.
Oh, all right, moving on to item 6D, LU-2022-0295. For possible action, discussion and possible action regarding a request from Comstock Country RV for a special use permit to extend an existing non-conforming recreational vehicle park use onto an adjacent parcel and continuation of existing nonconformities on property zone general commercial located at 5400 South Carson Street. Heather.
Thank you. Heather Ferris again for the record. The subject property is approximately 6.35 acres in size and is being created via a parcel map. The site is zoned general commercial and is located south of Highway 50 West and north and east of Costco. The existing RV park is a legally established non-conforming use. The use is non-conforming because utilizing today's codes, an RV park would require a special use permit in order to establish, and it would be required to be designed to meet the requirements of 1809 as it relates to open space requirements, number of amenities, size of RV spaces, etc. Carson City Municipal Code 1804-030 allows for non-conforming uses to be extended or expanded, subject to special use permit. The applicant has requested the non-conforming use be extended onto the parcel located to the west of the existing RV park. So the portion of the RV park will stay within the existing footprint and will be redesigned and extended onto the triangular portion of the project site behind Costco. The applicant has also requested a continuation of existing nonconformities as they relate to length of stay and specific portions of 1809 of the municipal code. The applicant has proposed a reduction in the total number of spaces from 150 to 82. Additionally, the applicant has proposed the elimination of the RV storage use and has proposed new circulation, which would eliminate loops and dead ends within the park. The staff report contains a detailed analysis of compliance with current codes and the requested continuation of nonconformity as it relates to the length of stay and the requirements listed in 1809. I'll briefly review those with you. So the length of stay at RV parks currently are limited to 28 days for short-term and 180 days for extended stay. However, this RV park was established prior to any time limitations, and currently many of the guests are at the park long-term. So the applicant is requesting this nonconformity be continued. The minimum setback of 20 feet from any public street right-of-way, line, or exterior boundary. The existing RV park space located along the north property line in the existing park do not currently meet the 20-foot setback. The applicant is requesting to continue this nonconformity along the new northern property line, and the reduced setback would not have an impact on surrounding properties as this area actually abuts a fairly large Highway 50 right-of-way. Minimum setbacks from the access streets are required to be 10 feet, and minimum distances between RVs are required to be 15 feet, which includes expandable sections and pop-outs. So the existing RV park does not currently provide a minimum of 10 feet between the RV space and the access road. The applicant is requesting that this continue for spaces along the northern property line and the ends of each of the rows in the new footprint. It would be worth noting that the required turning radius has been met with the current design, and all other portions of the project would comply to this standard. With regard to the required distance of 15 feet between spaces, including pop-outs, the existing RV park currently has spaces that are 24 feet in width, and they're proposing 24-foot wide spaces. While this doesn't meet the minimum distance between RVs, particularly when you have pop-outs, the spaces are wide enough to accommodate an RV with slides on both sides within the confines of the 24 feet. So allowing the continuation of this nonconformity will not impact surrounding properties and will not affect circulation throughout the site. And finally, the requirement for RV spaces to be hard surfaced. The existing RV park does not provide hard surface spaces, and the applicant is requesting this nonconformity to continue. Instead, the applicant is requesting compacted base with gravel surfaces for each RV space, and all other ground surfaces will meet current requirements with either landscaping or paving. So there are 7 findings of fact, as you know, that the Planning Commission must make in the affirmative in order to approve a special use permit. Staff has made all findings and is recommending approval subject to the 11 conditions of approval, which are included in your staff report. Additionally, staff met with the applicant earlier this week and has agreed to revisions to condition 8 as indicated in the memo provided as late material. That condition would be amended to read, prior to the issuance of a site improvement permit, the applicant shall have plans approved which include the construction of all off-site driveway realignment improvements. The applicant shall demonstrate that all off-site improvements shall be constructed prior to the final inspection for the site improvement permit or is otherwise approved by the city engineer and the fire department. This modification would allow the applicant flexibility in planning their master infrastructure associated with the redevelopment of the remainder of the existing RV park site. We have not received any public comments regarding this item. The applicant, Matt Lapierre, is here and may wish to address the commission, and I'm available for questions.
Okay. Does anyone have questions for staff?
I do.
Commissioner Esselstyn?
Just to be clear, it says that they're reducing the number from 150 to 80 some odd. Does that mean that they're going to discontinue a portion of the existing park?
That is correct.
Okay. So what we have, what we have on this plat is what the park will look like, and that the rest of the existing area will be discontinued as a
And
RV.
redeveloped into another use,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Commissioner Lloyd?
Okay, Commissioner Lloyd, for the record, Heather, I have just a question of if understanding what's being applied for in the special use permit. So if a commercial building owner or a homeowner were to come to the building department and say, hey, I want to add on to my home, would they have to meet, like, would they be forced to meet current standards?
So the zoning code allows for a non-conforming use to be extended onto another property or adjacent property subject to a special use permit. So it's not an apples to apples comparison with what you're asking.
Okay.
This is an extension of a non-conforming use onto an adjacent property. And the zoning code allows for that. I can't speak to what the building code would require in the event that somebody wanted to add on to their house.
So to get it in my head and what Commissioner Eswine was asking. So essentially the request is moving the current park to a new parcel and establishing essentially the same but new business at that site.
Yes, however, the parcel configurations are changing, so a portion of the existing park and the footprint of the existing park will remain but be redesigned.
Okay.
And then extended onto the portion of the new parcel behind Costco.
Okay. So it will still remain on some of the current parcel.
A portion of it will, yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, could the applicant please come up?
Heather, do you have an overlay? Do you have the overlay of that? It shows the new parcel and the current site.
You can kind of see it on the front, the very front picture. You have to look really close, and you can see a little bit of the overlap, I think. Oh, yeah, that's a better picture.
Does that work? Well, I'm trying to visualize where the new RV park is. In the triangle, correct?
So
I'm sorry.
the RV park will be redesigned and relocated so that a good portion of the spaces are, yes, in the triangular portion behind Costco. The amenities buildings and some of the other spaces will be on the portion of the parcel that currently contains the RV park, but those spaces will be redesigned.
Okay, I got you. This helps.
Okay. Could the applicant please state your name?
Matthew Lapierre.
And have you read the conditions of approval plus the amended condition 8?
I have.
And you're in agreement?
In regards to the amended note, we've, can I read this? Are you guys comfortable with the notes that we've made? Okay. following review with our engineer and council, the question that we had on numbers 5, 6, 7, and 8, sorry, 5, 7, 8, and 9, I apologize. We would ask in lieu of the language that's been asked, similar language, but just for clarity, these items may be satisfied by the submittal of off-site plans that are approved or accepted by the city engineer and fire department. So so we're just expanding on the language that's there. And then on number 2, we would ask, except for existing non-conforming uses, which we've just laid out in front of you based on the presentation that Heather did so well. And if I,
Well, does that say you don't agree at all?
no, no, we do agree to the conditions. All I'm saying is if we can, all we're doing is adding clarification as this goes through the process, because we're tying 2 different applications to this application, if that makes sense. And so what we're saying is fine. We're fine with tying the 2 applications with the intent that one application or the other doesn't hold up one or the other without taking safety and engineering into consideration. And if that doesn't make sense, I'm happy to expand on it.
Okay. For clarity, the number 2 one makes sense, obviously, and if we agree to some non-conforming uses, that addition makes sense. But I'm unclear on the removal of 5, 7, and 8, or
No, not the removal. So if you see on the late note, there's a red section in there that states that or as otherwise approved by the city engineer and the fire department. What we're asking for at the end of that, number 8, is for clarity, the language being for clarity, these items may be satisfied by the submittal of off-site plans that are approved or accepted by the city engineer and the fire department.
This is Heather Ferris for the record. So
I apologize.
Matt, are you requesting those on 5, 7, that same language on 5, 7, 8, and 9?
5, 6, 7, and 8, please.
5, 7, 8.
Okay.
5, 7, 8, and 9. So I'm not sure how you can, how that can apply to condition 7, which requires the parcel map to be recorded.
Going back again to, we've got 2 separate applications here. I apologize. And what we're trying to do is just ask that we don't combine the 2 applications or let one direct the other without.
So just for the commission, benefit of the commission, the parcel map has to be recorded in order to create the parcel that they're proposing to place the RV park on. So that's why we've required that the parcel map be recorded.
Just to help add a little clarity, hopefully. With the parcel map, there are improvements that would need to either be constructed or bonded for. And so in order to figure out what those are, the site improvement permit needs to be at least submitted and reviewed. I think that's part of what the applicant's getting at, is that he doesn't want his hands to be tied and not be able to at least submit and go through the review process and show that these items have been met with those site improvement permits during the application process. So the actual issuance of the permit happens after the map is recorded, but there would be a concurrent review going on. Hope that makes sense.
Well, Commissioner Eswine, for the record, why is it a parcel map rather than just a boundary line adjustment?
They're creating additional parcels that aren't shown on this site plan.
Heather, it just seems like there's more at play here than what we're looking at. And I feel a little squirrely about tentatively approving something we haven't seen yet or giving movement to it. It just, you know, the reference is made that there's two permits going on here at the same time, and we're only considering the one right now.
You're only considering one.
Yeah,
Parcel maps are reviewed at a staff level.
okay.
So that has been reviewed and approved, and I believe the notice of decision for the tentative subdivision or tentative parcel map has been provided to the applicant. So they have their conditions that are associated with the parcel map that they need to move forward with completing. So they're two concurrent applications, one of which you get to evaluate, the other one that staff evaluates.
Who grants the site improvement permit?
Development engineering.
So why would we add this language if essentially it's at the city's hands if we approve this? In other words,
So these are timings for certain things to occur. So, for example, we want the parcel map to record before the site improvements begin. We want the site improvement permit to be issued before, obviously, they begin construction. It's typical timing that actually we see in most of our conditions.
So I'll just add on to that, I think that the clarification that they're offering is actually the intent of these conditions. It's just adding clarifying language.
yeah, and that's where I was going with this as well. If you guys control the site improvement permit, then you would either grant it or not grant it outside of our approving this special use permit. So does it make it more clunky or does it clarify it for staff?
I feel like it has the same effect as just adding clarification. Specifically, what I was mentioning before, making sure there's the ability to move forward with that site plan review.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I just would like clarification, and it may be necessary for the benefit of the record, or I just missed it. Okay, if we look at 5 all by itself, because I'm hearing we want to look at 5, is the request of the applicant that 5 read exactly as it reads in the report with the added language of or as otherwise approved by the city engineer and the fire department?
That's correct.
Thank you. And is that the same for number 7, 8, and 9? That language stays identical and we add the clause or as otherwise approved by the city engineer and or the fire department?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Stephen, for actually clarifying that, because I think it actually, you verbalized that a lot better than I did, so thank you.
I'm still, Chuck Borders for the record, I'm still confused as to who we're clarifying it for. We're doing this for clarity. Who's being more clear?
I think it's being done for flexibility, to be honest, as someone who hasn't been involved is just hearing this. And I think what we are looking at are some conditions of approval that were probably identified by development engineering and the fire department. And it's giving them the ability to work through it with the applicant should they see that there's an alternative. Is that fair, Stephen?
Yes, that's fair.
I'm sort of seeing why they want flexibility too. I think special use permit probably kicks off the project a lot, right? So there's going to be some changes but I think that's true of everything. Okay, I'm feeling like their lawyer is making a bunch of money. Adding words to documents, but I'm okay with it if staff's okay with it. Any, okay, so with those additions to 2, 5, 7, and 8, you're in agreement with the conditions of approval?
Yes.
Okay.
5,
Can we verify what conditions? I thought it was 5, 7, 8, and 9.
Oh, was it 9 too?
That's my
5,
understanding.
7, 8, and 9. Yes.
So when there's a motion, if we can just be clear, 5, 7, 8, and 9.
And 2 was adding the except for non-conforming uses.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Did you have a presentation, or did you want to add anything to what's been presented by staff?
The only thing I would add is of the 6.3 acres, 2.7 acres is the relocation of the existing sites to that 2.7 acres. So we're talking about a 60-40 roughly split of what 40% of what we'd be moving our sites over to, so behind Costco. Just for clarification, I think there was a question as to what that, from 150 to 82, how that disbursement acted upon what's existing and what's being added.
Okay. Heather, can you go back to the non-conforming uses, please? So regarding the length of stay, when I looked at this, I thought, okay, I think we need to try to come into compliance as much as possible, and I didn't want to necessarily kick out people who were permanent residents of this, who've, you know, are non-conforming users in this environment. That being said, we always try to come forward and bring everything up to date. So are there individuals as part of construction that are staying in the area and then continuing their permanent no limit length of stay?
So full disclosure, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the 49er Motel, but I was literally born at the 49er Motel. My father had built camp in town and then had revised and rebuilt where we're at today. With that being the new owner of Comstock Country, as far as length of stay, users, uses, I've been there since I was 12 years old, been watering those trees, watering those plants, been dealing with some of those individuals since I was 12 years old. There's 1 or 2 of them that actually are still there. So, and I understand what you're saying, sir. We get people from as far north as the northern borders of Canada and as far south as Mexico and everything in between that come seasonally and stay for 2, 3, 4, up to 6, 7 months at a time. And we get construction workers that come and stay for their 3, 4, 5, 6 months, whether they're linemen, et cetera. But with that, our average age is about 75 to 80 years old. And that's kind of the group that we get seasonally that go back and forth, typically, I would say from Yuma to Carson City. I don't know if that answers your question specifically, but from a length of stay, we do get the full gamut. If you look at our site, we have a reservation from nightly, weekly, and potentially monthly, depending on that length of stay. So.
Okay, I guess that's what I was kind of struggling with here. We're going to limit other businesses in length of stay because of requirements, but yeah, okay. So you were saying there's probably going to just be a handful of more permanent folks staying.
I think the reality is when you go from 150 spaces down to 82, I don't know if you're familiar with the number of RV park spaces or true affordable living in Carson City. And I'm not using the term affordable in a derogatory term. I'm actually using our guests, I'm a little biased. I think they're amazing. I think we've done a great job of providing an arena for them to come, one, be safe, but more importantly, have access to a lot of amenities, not just Fuji Park, which is great, but also between the casino, Costco, Walmart, all these different fun amenities that are either within close proximity, walking and or driving. But I think as far as potentially new or offsetting our current guests, yes, we're going to have new guests come in, but I think the majority of what that's there are going to be there for the foreseeable future. So,
okay,
and that's just due to the fact of the reduction. So,
Okay. Are there any other, Heather, any other RV parks you know of that are non-conforming with no length of stay limitations?
Hope may know this better than I do, but my understanding is the other existing constructed RV parks, with maybe the exception of Gold Dust West, have no limit. They were all constructed prior to the limitation.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I don't have any more information on that, but while we have this slide up, if I may, on condition number 2 in the proposed wording to the effect of and unless there's non-conforming uses or something to that effect, because of, at the end of the day, somebody has to take what's called the notice of decision and implement it. And the more clear it is, the more easy it is. And so what I would suggest on number 2 is something to the effect of existing nonconformities, specifically length of stay, setback from right of way, the things on that screen right now may continue, and then go on to the next sentence. All on and off-site improvements, other than those previously stated, shall conform to the city standards and requirements. That way, when somebody has to actually implement this, they know exactly what the scope of nonconformities are.
Okay. Adding that for clarity makes sense. Okay, we have some hands raised. Let's start with Commissioner Perry.
I think you answered most of it. I think what I heard you say is that probably about half of your people are permanent and half of them are transitory, coming and going, and that the permanent ones are probably going to stay in your new. I was curious how many people might get kicked out, really, is what my concern was.
So I think the reality, right now, we're at operating at a capacity of 92 spaces. And with that, if we're running on a 50-50, so 50 of those guests might stay for 3 months, 6 months, 2 months, and 50 of those might stay for 6+ months, correct? So I think as we proceed forward, I don't think we're going to be relocating or removing anybody. And then we are the different RV parks in the surrounding area. I stay as far as, between Virginia City, Dayton, obviously Carson City and Douglas County. I stay in close contact with those groups too. So at the end of the day, if we do need to relocate anybody, I've been in communication with the other facilities in the surrounding area.
Okay, and the second question is with regards to the definition of an RV. I mean, I drove around your place and most of it was motorhomes or trailers. Everything had wheels, right? I didn't see any like park models or something there.
So you bring up a great point, right? Because park models, depending on, and the city's done, I think, a great job of writing an ordinance that I think describes that pretty well. I think it needs to be what we would consider in our trade a true recreational RV, where it's got to be mobile, right? And I don't mean mobile in the sense of, hey, we're gonna move it over there on wheels, disassemble that, put it on blocks, and put it or on a permanent foundation. So, and I don't like to use the term park model, because if you're a Tiffin or a Fleetwood or any of the other brands, they are using the term park model just to compete with their competitors, right? And it's a terminology. It's not really, I don't think it's a good word to use in our industry, just because if I'm subject to a park model, I'm applying it to a different application, and they're using it in our industry now as, hey, and they do have some amazing, what they would consider park models. I mean, you've got rigs that are 30, 35 feet that they consider in their mind are park models, but they're true recreational RVs. They're on, a hookup to our facilities, not permanent hookups. So, and I think that's probably the primary difference that you're asking is, are these going to be hardline hookups, or are these going to be true RVs? And I think that's a separation. So
that's really it. So these are true RVs, is
yes,
what
sir.
you're saying. Okay,
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Yep.
Commissioner Lloyd?
I just want to say thank you, Hope, for clarifying that, because that was one of my questions on here. And do you have so this is for the applicant, do you have a year limit? Do you have a limit to what you are allowing in the park?
We currently do not, and we don't intentionally, right? Because at the end of the day, trying to say this very nicely, so don't shoot me, but if our median age is 70, 75, or 80 years old, the last thing we want to do is create doubt or discomfort or insecurity in their decision to move into our facility. So
I appreciate that. Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Commissioner Eswine.
Yeah, just for clarification, and I don't know whether Hope or Heather are going to answer this, but isn't length of stay really, it's a tax consideration for the city, isn't it, rather than a land use consideration?
I think it's both. It's actually built into our code that RV parks can be up to 28 days for short term, and that's where you collect the tax, or up to 180 days for long term. Both are still considered transient in our code.
Commissioner Borders.
On our screen up here, the non-conforming items, if we ask that items 2, 3, and 4 would become conforming in the new area, what does that reduce your RV space to?
So the initial 8 that were requested based off of this language is the farthest north properties that abut Highway 50. Those spaces would definitely be eliminated. And it may do a reduction of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, potentially another 6 to 10 sites. So
maybe 18,
yes.
15 to 18?
Correct. With that said, our initial design, I don't know if and one, thank you for the Planning Commission's time tonight. One of the design criteria, if you will, it is a 30-foot radius. If you've ever, full disclosure, my background is in architecture. I got a degree in architecture and I've got a degree in planning. I don't know if you're familiar with, if you do a radius of 28 feet, the city standard is 30 feet, which is just fine. We've met that code requirement, but with that distance change, it adds a significant distance in width to our spaces. Our spaces are considerably bigger than a traditional RV park space. And when I say considerable, we're between 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. I've seen homes in this city built on similar size lots. So, and I'm not knocking them. I'm all for alternate modes of living. But with that said, we've done a great job of fulfilling amazing spaces. So, and it's to the care of the city standards. So from a safety standpoint, not only do we meet them, and I'm a little biased, but we exceed them. And I think as I was watching, not to bring up a sensitive subject, but I was following the new fire truck last night, and I was like, okay, I get it. I understand it. We're behind Costco too, so push did come to shove. We've got the facilities to utilize the city's resources. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but.
Commissioner Lloyd.
I'm going to do it one more time today. The taxes are paid by the property owner.
I was going to bring it up, but it seemed a little sensitive on the first one, so.
Are you gunning for one of those IRS jobs?
Oh.
Okay, Commissioner Eswine.
Yeah, as far as the setbacks go, it's always been, I've been in planning for 30-odd years, and my understanding of setbacks is to provide access for utilities and emergency services. In this case, they have, the layout of the property provides plenty of access for both utilities and services. So I don't have a problem with allowing them to continue with the limited setback that they currently exist under.
Okay. Any other questions for the staff or the applicant? Okay. Thanks. Is there any public comment at this time?
Chair and Commissioners, Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. Referring to page 4, it's suggesting that property 2022-0208 would create 3 parcels after separation. I'm just a little, I'm just not, I'd like some clarification from me on that. And then there was a page 9, referring to page 9, it's the suggestion that on the facility there are things relating to facilitation for laundry, a pool, and some other deals. Are they kept in sort of a grandfathered state of their existence as far as their code and such? Just a question, those remaining facilities, are then those for the guests still available? Or just is that going to be a continuance? Or is that going to be part that's going to be removed? Or it's just on page restrooms, showers, top under B on page 9. Management office 1, single family dwelling, 1 mobile home use for living quarters by operators and managers of the park. And then also down below that staff response, the existing buildings will remain. Was any of that changed as far as the showers, restrooms, laundry facilities, management quarters, and the change in the elevation surveys for the RV park? Yes. Additionally, there is a pool, a dog walk, and other amenities located outside or on site that are accessories to the RV park. Or how does this all coordinate into the planned separation? I wasn't clear on the map is all. And so I appreciate a little bit of, is that moving or is that staying located where it's at? It says existing buildings will remain. Will they remain actually on the same sites that they're existing now?
We'll answer all the questions at once.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Any other public comment at
That
this
was
time?
more of a question, sorry.
Okay. Heather, do you want to take the questions?
Comment. So with regard to Denny's question about the parcel map, again, parcel map is not before the Planning Commission. A parcel map is something that can be reviewed and approved at a staff level. So the proposed, or the parcel map did propose 3 parcels. As I indicated earlier, that has been reviewed and the tentative map has been approved subject to a list of conditions, and that notice of decision has been provided to the applicant. With regard to Denny's question about the amenities, all of the existing amenities and the existing buildings that are on site are proposed to remain. No proposed changes to those uses.
Thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to, I guess, final discussions on this topic. I'll just clarify. So regarding the long-term stay, from my business, we have a lot of contractors that have come out to the area, and they obviously, with housing prices, they don't want to buy a house, and they're going to work for a year, maybe 2 at max. So I struggle with limiting length of stay in these locations because many of them travel in their RVs and stay and move and travel somewhere else. But so I'm actually okay with this continuation. It is roughly staying the same type of facility. So I just wanted to clarify that. Any other discussion from the commissioners? I see someone's hand up. Commissioner Perry.
Turn this on. I also believe, I don't have any issues with what they're doing and requesting. I do find it sometimes frustrating when we try to rewrite all of these things at a meeting. It makes it really clumsy. I wish that would have come out before all of this came out, because the motion's now gonna be a lengthy one, is all, because I think we're gonna have to weave some of these things that we said in here, and I'm willing to make a go of that if anybody wants me to. But
Commissioner Lloyd has her hand to motion.
there we
or her-
go.
Yeah, she's gonna take that off you.
It may take two of us.
Commissioner Borders also has a discussion item too before you do that.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I really hate continuing non-conforming uses. I don't have a problem with length of stay. I don't have a problem with the surface area. I think a permeable surface is even better than a lot of concrete running water all over the place. And the right of way to the back is fine. I just, the setbacks in the internal spaces, I think I would like to have found a way to make them to be conforming in the new area, but I understand the design. So that's my comment. Now go ahead, Mr. Perry.
Motion? Okay,
Sure.
I'll give it a
Go
go
for
here.
it.
I move to approve the special use permit case number LU 2022-0295 based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval contained in the staff report with the following changes. Under recommended conditions of approval, number 2, to read, all on and off-site improvements shall conform to city standards and requirements. The existing non-conforming uses shall be continued, and those are length of stay, setback from right-of-way line or exterior boundary, minimum setbacks from internal access streets, space between RVs, including pop-outs, and RV space surface. Okay? Continuing on to item 5. Prior to the issuance of a site improvement permit, the applicant shall have plans approved that demonstrate the water main connections will be relocated so that each parcel has a separate meter and backflow preventer, comma, or as otherwise approved by the city engineer and fire department. Okay. Number 6. Is there anything on 6?
No.
No.
7.
7. This one's a little more clunky. Prior to the issuance of a site improvement permit, the applicant shall record the parcel map. I'm struggling with, or is otherwise approved by the city engineer, how that even fits in there. Or should it? So I'm just going to leave that one alone, because that doesn't make sense to me to add that. Because the city engineer doesn't approve the parcel map. Okay, so number 8. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm okay.
Number 8, prior to the issuance of a site improvement permit, the applicant shall have plans approved which include the construction of all off-site driveway realignment improvements. The applicant shall demonstrate that all off-site improvements shall be constructed prior to the final inspection for the site improvement permit, comma, or as otherwise approved by the city engineer and fire department. Good with that? And then 9. Prior to the issuance of a site improvement permit, the applicant shall have plans approved that demonstrate all on-site utilities shall be private. Any shared utilities shall have an easement a maintenance agreement for the shared utilities shall be provided, comma, or is otherwise approved by the city engineer and fire department. That's the end of the modifications.
Second.
Commissioner Kilgore, second. Sorry, seen it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion passes. That was easy.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 7, staff reports. Hope.
Thank you. Tomorrow I go to the Board of Supervisors because your decision concerning the guest house on Kings Canyon, 1555 Kings Canyon, has been appealed. Specifically, he's appealing the condition number 6, which stated that he couldn't rent it and he had to have the deed restriction, which that again came right out of code. So we'll visit with the board tomorrow on that. At the last board meeting, they did introduce the ordinance on marijuana dispensaries and increase the number of dispensaries to 4. So that was an introduction of the ordinance, and I think it's later next month they'll do second reading. Also, the board approved a final map at Anderson Ranch, which was for those old timers, the vintage. You were here with me during vintage. Vintage is no longer. Anderson Ranch came in, and they now have a final map and 2 phases at Lampa. Lampa, I think it was 2B and 2C. Final maps were approved as well. We did poll the commission to see your availability for the September meeting for a 4 o'clock start, and you're all dying to know why. So I will tell you what we're looking at for September. Some things may fall off, we're not sure, but we'll see. We have a special use permit to convert an existing building to a residential triplex that's over on California Street. Over on Ormsby Boulevard, we have a zoning map amendment and a tentative subdivision map. On Kings Canyon, which it's across the street from Anderson Ranch across Ormsby, we have a request for a tentative subdivision map. We have a zoning code amendment. Right now, the definition of hotel says it's 6 rooms or more. And then we have rules about bed and breakfast, but with bed and breakfast, the owner has to live there. What we've run into is people trying to make a historic inn from some of the properties downtown, which have fewer than 6 rooms, but it's not a bed and breakfast. It's a historic inn with fewer rooms. So you'll consider amending that definition of hotel to allow fewer than 6 rooms and allow us to still call it a hotel. And we'll also be looking at another amendment in the tourist commercial zoning district that would allow breweries as an allowed use in the tourist commercial zoning district, provided they included a tasting room. Yeah, so that's a lot.
There's 2 more, if
Oh,
I
there
can
are?
chime in, that
Please, I don't
Hope
know.
didn't have on her list, and I think we need to update the list, actually. We've got the special use permit for the marijuana facility that'll be coming back, assuming that the ordinance that was introduced by the board is actually adopted. And we also have an amendment to a condition of approval for the townhomes that you guys
Oh, right.
saw probably a little better than a year ago that Mark Turner had submitted.
Silver Oak.
By
in the
Silver
park.
Oak, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really to amend a condition that can't be met in the manner that staff had drafted it. So that'll be coming before you.
All right. Any commissioner reports, comments? You're pushing buttons.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Kilgore.
So this has to do with we of course passed on the dispensary thing, and they have of course approved it, but wasn't adopted yet. And I don't know if anyone saw how that went.
So could you clarify, did they just change the number in the,
It was a disaster. But aside from that, my question is, of course, now it's got to come back to us for, I mean, you said that we would have it back on our agenda if it is approved and adopted.
So the ordinance won't be coming back to the planning commission. What would come to the planning commission is the special use permit for the specific location, for the specific facility,
Right.
assuming that the ordinance is adopted.
Yes.
The way that the ordinance was introduced included increasing the number of facilities to 4, and also allowing for drive-through.
oh, okay. They went full speed with that.
So the question is then, we can, of course, turn down the special use permit and then it would be appealed to the Board of Supervisors? Is that how that would work?
If the planning commission cannot make all of the findings, then the special use permit would have to be denied, because the requirement is that you make all findings in the affirmative. And then the applicant would have the ability to appeal. Likewise, if it was approved by the planning commission, any member of the public that's aggrieved would be able to appeal as well.
And they also, didn't they put in there that the bar lounge situation could not be part of the facility?
So there was a lot of discussion that occurred. All of that discussion did not make it into the ordinance. What was actually in the ordinance was strictly the number of establishments and the drive-through.
And at this point, I think I'm going to jump in and request that the discussion on this item be discontinued since it wasn't agendized. This will be agendized next meeting, and if anybody has any questions about what exactly the Board of Supervisors did, I would encourage you either to ask Heather before the next meeting and have a discussion about it, or you're welcome to call me. Or if you'd like to, we can have a discussion about that at the next meeting when the SUP is agendized.
Can I ask you a question, Todd, on that real quick?
You can ask me.
Um,
I don't know if I can answer publicly, but you can ask.
I heard Hope say at some point next month, which would be September, will the ordinance be heard by the supervisors before we see an application?
Yes. The ordinances are typically, there's typically a 1 meeting delay for publication reasons for ordinances. So the ordinance is likely to be heard at the second meeting of the Board of Supervisors in September, the 15th, I believe. However, the agenda for that hasn't been put together yet.
Thank you.
Todd, could you provide a copy of the ordinance as approved for us for referral?
What we can do at your next meeting is we can agendize an item where we, if the board adopts the ordinance, we can basically brief you on what the new code is.
Okay.
And Terry, if you would like, I can provide the wording of the ordinance to you.
Okay, Commissioner Borders, hands up.
Yes. With trepidation to the wrath of our attorney, I would like to comment on the way our actions were reported to the Board of Supervisors, and I would, the motion that we made and was approved in our minutes was to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that no changes would be made to the marijuana ordinance. And that was a positive vote. And 2 members of this commission voted no, and in the record, they stated that their no vote was because they felt like it didn't belong as for our consideration. And in my review of the packet that was provided, or what was provided to the Board of Supervisors, simply said that this commission turned down the marijuana ordinance. And I think while technically we did turn down a marijuana zoning change or an ordinance change, we didn't, the way we said it was not, we voted no. The way we said it was that it did not, we did not recommend any changes. So, you know, I've been told by members of the Board of Supervisors that we voted no. So, I would just like to make sure that we report correctly what we say. And that's all I got. And I don't think I violated anything by saying that.
I don't think so either, and we will take that under advisement.
Thank you.
Commissioner Perry.
So I'm going to get off that subject and go to the growth management meeting 2 months ago, where there was one item there that I noted that keeps coming up year after year on the deficit in road maintenance in the city and how it relates to growth. And it's probably, you know, timely to have that presentation, obviously not next month, please, but at some point in time, because, you know, next month we're going to see two big subdivisions in an area. And I know it's just been one of those issues that residents have had when they brought up when we're going through something that's going to increase traffic, that, gee, we're not maintaining our roads now. So I just want to kind of ask that get on the agenda and get out there. I mean, there's advocates for a lot of different things in the city, and I want to be an advocate for the roads. Thanks.
Noted.
All right. I think we're done with commissioner comments, so move on to number 8 here, public comment. Public's invited to comment on any matter not specifically included. Any public comment?
Denny French, Carson City, Chair and Commissioners. With all due respect and without necessarily even bringing up the subject we're not supposed to be talking about because it's not on the agenda, I would like to suggest I'm going to have to review the meeting myself, and I would recommend that anybody else that's confused and bewildered and everything else about this might want to do the same as all. It's a real, but I appreciate all of you, and I appreciate the clarification just Mr. Board, thank you. Geez, tough situation, you know, but as public comment, I'd like to say I am sorry I was late, less prepared than I would have liked to be on several subjects, and I'm glad to have you all help get me straightened up, and thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing none, meeting is adjourned.